Hey, good morning everybody. We're going to be making a socketed ball joint today. I already went ahead and made one just for demo purposes so you can see what we're trying to achieve. Essentially, let's switch tools here. Nope, that one. There you go. We want to make a socketed joint that allows us to have degrees of rotation. And this is good for toys. So it's a pretty common toy joint. Now there's a lot of variations of these. Like sometimes these are round. These pegs could also be square. It's not really a huge deal, but I just wanted to illustrate the end result for us in ZBrush. And we're going to go ahead and jump into making one, and you can follow along. So let's do it. Alrighty, so we're going to start off with the sphere 3D. That's this one right here. And we're going to go ahead and make this a polymesh 3D right away. So just click that button right up there. And make sure we're working from a side view where the pole of the sphere is sort of like on the left and right of the screen. The first thing we want to do is take this sphere and duplicate it after we've made it a polygon. So let's duplicate. And this is going to be our outer dimension here, so let's just name this outer. And this one here is going to be our inner. And for this part of it, I like to turn on transparency. And then we're going to go down to the deformation menu. And we're going to go to size and scale it in. And let's see, we don't see the other one. There we go. I had the other one turned off. All right, so deformation again and size. So we can play with the size of the sphere. So this thickness that we go for is kind of dependent on how big you're printing. So you know, this is not a CAD modeling software, so our ratios are not sort of by percentages or precise measurements at this point. We could use a transpose tool to tell us a real life dimension. These are centimeters, I believe. And if we're going to use these as centimeters, this would be obviously a really, really large ball joint. But it's okay because we'll scale it down to whatever size we need when we 3D print it. But let's move along here. So we have our inner sphere. And this is sort of up to you what size we want to make it. So I'm just going to pick one I like. Yeah, that's good to me. Cool. And then notice, yeah, again, I'm working on the side view where the pole is on the right and left. And then the X symmetry on is going across the mesh here. So the next thing we want to do is create a cylinder. So go back up to your subtool and go to append and cylinder and select the cylinder, and I'm also going to divide it 3 times, and I'm going to use my clipping tool, and I had that down here, so it's Control Shift, and then you can change this to clip curve. And I'm just going to flatten out these ends here. And back to the deformation tab. So for this part, I want to be looking at the inner box and the outer box, or sphere, I should say. Make sure they're both visible. There you go. And then actually, I'm just going to look at the inner one for right now. Go to the deformation and size. So this is the size of the cutout that you would want. So that's kind of our. Actually, I'm going to reverse this. We want to make this cylinder to be the largest diameter of the sphere. So the cross section in the middle here, we want to make this whole thing that big. So let's change the size back up and go in here and fine tune this. And then you go ahead and enter in some custom values here. These are going to be kind of arbitrary between what size you drew everything, so don't follow my numbers exactly. Minus 0.5, that's pretty good. All right, so we just want to see a little bit of the sphere coming through, and this is the inner sphere. So if we go to Subtool and turn on the outer one, you can see that we're still within our area. So now we want to make this a little bit longer. So let's go to Geometry, or sorry, Deformation. We're going to go to Size, and then this is down the Z, I believe. Yep, there you go, down the Z. And that's good. And the last thing we want to do is we need to give this thing a taper. So if you look back onto this model here, this is the finished one. You see how this has an angle to it. It's not just straight. And that's so that the ball will actually fit through the outer area here and then get to this inner edge. And then you have to, you know, hopefully the material you're printing in has some flexibility and it pops in there. So let's go back to our cylinder here. And all right, so the way that I had to do a few different things to figure out how to get this kind of tapered effect. And I ended up just duplicating this cylinder a bunch of times. So first of all, we need to make the taper. So let's go ahead and hide the outer sphere. So deformation and then offset down the Z. So let's move it out. Okay. So we know that this diameter here is good because that's the same. So if this was going to be the cut out shape, the ball would fit inside there, but it would also fall right out. So we need to actually give this kind of an angle. And the way I ended up doing that was using the Radial Symmetry. So if you hit X and go to R, turn on Radial, and then up this to 40, and make sure we set the right direction. So I believe it's around the Z again. Yep, there you go. And now, if we're going to turn on our sphere again, so it's hard to see, but we know that this is the inner sphere here. So we're going to use the clipping tool to give us our angle. So depending on how, so let me stop this for a sec. Depending on how thin you want this cylinder to be, so I picked this thin. You know, that was the size I picked, or roughly. That's going to be your like how extreme you use your clipping tool here. So let's go ahead and just do it. All right, so I'm going to do this. And then you're going to line it up just at the edge here. And for some reason my radial turned off, so there you go. And do it again. All right, let go. And then we have our radial there. So I actually had it set to 40. I thought that was a little weird. I know you can get 100. All right, so there, do it again, one more time. Cool, that's great. So now we have that shape. And I'm gonna hit Control D and divide it one more time so we get a little bit smoother. Smooth out some of those artifacts. Maybe twice. And this is the tedious part, but it actually paid off and was pretty perfect. So I'm going to hide the outer shape. So you can see this is more about the bevel profile of the socket. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate this a ton of times, going all the way up 90 degrees. So I'm just gonna do that for you, and then time lapse this, because this is the most tedious part, but it worked out pretty good. So first, let's set our rotate to be the right way. So that's not the right way. I think it's the X. Yeah, the X is the right direction. So we essentially want to go like this, a bunch of them. So I'd love to find another comment on how to make this happen faster, but what I found was if you Control Shift on Subtool and then scroll down, you can kind of keep duplicate and rotate in the same view here. So duplicated it and then rotate -5, boom, and duplicate. Go back to your first one and duplicate -90. So you know your stopping point. So we know we want to get up there. I mean, turn off transparency now, so you can see what shape we're making. Let's go back to our model here. That's the last one. And duplicate. Okay, so we're all done with that. And you can see that we created this shape here. And it's also angled. So you can see that it has this taper to it all the way around. So the next we want to combine this all into one gigantic shape. Alright, so for this one we're going to just go back to Subtool, and we're going to start at the top and then just merge down and just hit OK, and then just merge. I think it's getting a bit high res, so we might have to nope, still gone. Alright, I think we'll make it. I'm gonna save our progress real fast. And then merge a couple more. How big are we? Oh, we ended up making this thing pretty heavy, about 9 million. That's fine. All right, and merge the ball in there. So now we have one continuous object. Okay, so after a few tests behind the scenes I couldn't get this to successfully dynamesh together. And I'm not sure why. I know there's a lot of overlapping surfaces. But what happens if you can't dynamesh something together? My solution was to use the unified skin. It's actually a pretty old tool in ZBrush. All we need to do is, I ended up separating out those spheres, or the cylinders from the sphere, and I'm going to actually merge this back down. So merge down, so it's all one, hit OK, and go down to unified skin and set this to about 650. You don't have to go too crazy. And hit make unified skin and let it cook. Alright, so after the unified skin was done baking out, I'm going to go to the subtool and I'm going to just hide the one that we made, the assembly of it, and go to append and then find our skin PM3D sphere 3. So go ahead and do that, and you can see it's pretty close. So, and let's isolate. There you go. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Alrighty. And what we can do is actually turn this on, see if this works, and then select the unified skin, go to project, and hit project all. And this is going to just shrink all that stuff right down to the original model, so we don't have any kind of weird cleanup to do. So let this cook for a minute. Alrighty, so we're back. And there you go. So that's our skin. And we can look at the topology. It's nice and uniform all the way around. So this is excellent. So in the case where Dynamesh didn't work, Unified Skin did. And all we need to do now is use this as a cut shape on this one. So let's move this up, and I'm going to save this out again. Always save before you do any booleans or dynameshing, in case you accidentally crank up the numbers too much. So skin, move this up, and that's our source. So that's hit. Okay. So make sure that this is one polygroup, the skin mesh. Control W, and then select the sphere. Hit the half moon button here. Hit the half moon button here, and so merge this down. Merge down. And before you go and hit Dynamesh, after doing this a few times, geometry, Dynamesh, about 500 to 600 is good. Make sure you turn groups on and hit Dynamesh. Alrighty, and you can see we got a really nice socketed sphere here with a 90 degrees of rotation. Alright, that's pretty nice. Alright, doesn't have to be perfect. And let's go append, sphere 3D, select the sphere, turn on transparency again, and deformation. Let's see, size, scale this down, make our other tools invisible. There you go. So the cool thing about using these spheres as your base, the center is always the sphere center, so all your deformation tools will always scale like in and out of that center, so you don't have to worry about alignment as much. So let's go to the 3/4 view and turn off transparency so we can see how big to make this. So size, and then we're just going to make that, be generously smaller than that. A little bit. There you go. Depends on the tolerance of your printer. And yeah, so you can see the outer edge of the sphere is actually still on the inside of this outer edge, so we know that that's going to fit through pretty nicely. And let's attach a couple pegs to this. So it's pretty simple. Let's go append cylinder. So we'll do round ones for this guy. Select that. And geometry, or sorry, deformation. So you rotate on the X. There you go. So we want a 90. And let's see, size, scale this down. And then offset this on the X. Nope, wrong way, Y. And do this a little bit more. And I'm going to scale this on the Y as well. So, scale. So just align this in there. So be careful not to go too far in, or else we're going to actually eclipse into the inner circle. So you want to be outside of that area. So right there. Actually, we can go a little lower. Yeah, should be safe. And I'm going to Control D that a couple times, use my clip tool to flatten out the bottom here. Just because. I'm going to do the top as well. And you see I clipped too far. So that's fine. Okay. Cool. And then subtool, duplicate geometry again, or sorry, deformation again, and then offset this up because we're going to need 2 copies. And there we go. And we're almost done. So turn transparency off. And depending on the like how big that you want this peg to be, it's up to you really. You know, one can be smaller, it doesn't really matter. Now, the larger you make this, if you make it this big, your rotational freedom from left to right is only going to be this angle here. So keep that in mind. So if you make this smaller, now you've just increased it. So these are some things you want to think about when you design your ball joint, is the degrees of rotation that you want. So let's go for this one. I want to keep it pretty limited. And yeah, all we need to do is dynamesh these together. So subtool, let's merge this down, merge down, Control W, because you don't want those poly groups, and change the resolution to about 450 and dynamesh. And then same thing, move this one down, merge down, and then all we need to do is hit Control W and then redraw our dynamesh. Alrighty, that's it, and we should be pretty good. So let's see. Got deformation, rotate. Yep. So you can see our rotational is still there. So you still get a rotational freedom. That's great. So hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, please, and definitely check out our other tutorials. We have a lot of 3D printing and modeling tutorials in ZBrush, and we have one in Modo, and hopefully more to come. Please head over to mold3d.com, check out our website, sign up for a newsletter, get our free giveaway, and we'll see you next time. This is Robert, and have a good one.